strategist Steve Bannon. Scaramucci took to Twitter following the publication, saying, "I sometimes use colorful language. I will refrain in this arena, but not give up the passionate fight for Donald Trump's agenda." And this one, Justin, he just tweeted, "I made a mistake in trusting a reporter. It won't happen again." No word yet from that reporter. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders weighed in earlier.
Anthony put out a statement here just moments ago and stated that, you know, this is a guy who sometimes uses colorful and in many circles, probably not appropriate language. And he's very passionate about the president's agenda. And I think he may have let that get the best of him in that conversation.
So there's lots more developing tonight. Let's go to the White House and bring in Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry with the latest from there. Ed.
Dana, with all these fast-moving developments, it's important to remind ourselves that Anthony Scaramucci is not even officially really on the staff here, and it was barely a week ago, 6 days ago, that he was at the White House podium being introduced as an incoming aide. So much has happened since then. He is supposed to be the incoming White House communications director, trying to sharpen the message back on the president's big agenda: jobs, healthcare, which is obviously playing out in the Senate tonight, a very important moment for the president's agenda, as well as infrastructure and all of the big national security issues he's dealing with. Instead, what is spilling out is what is clearly a feud between Scaramucci and the White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Remember, at the podium last Friday, Scaramucci claimed that they were brothers. They have fights sometimes. It gets messy, but deep down, they deeply like each other. At the time, we reported that a lot of other people in the building behind me did not believe that they got along. And in fact, it is becoming more and more clear that that is the case. You see Steve Bannon there as well. Scaramucci training his fire on him as well, claiming that the president's chief strategist here at the White House is all about himself, not about the president, not about the people, not about the president's agenda. All of this in terms of the New Yorker interview, following an extraordinary interview this morning on CNN, where Scaramucci said this.
If you want to talk about the chief of staff, we have had odds, we have had differences. When I said we were brothers from the podium, that's because we're rough on each other. Some brothers are like Cain and Abel. Other brothers can fight with each other and then get along. I don't know if this is repairable or not. That will be up to the president. When I put out a tweet and I put Reince's name in the tweet, they're all making the assumption that it's him because journalists know who the leakers are. So if Reince wants to explain that he's not a leaker, let him do that.
So that last bit there referencing a tweet late last night, even before all of this, where it appeared Scaramucci was accusing Priebus of leaking out Scaramucci's personal financial disclosure form. Instead, it wasn't really a leak. It was a form that reporters were able to get. It's public information. He had to sort of backpedal from that charge against Priebus. But it's clear, regardless of how this is spun now, that there is a lot going on behind the scenes and now even in public between these top White House aides. Dana?
All right, thank you so much. So back in the day, like King Henry VIII, they had palace intrigue. The New York Post cover tomorrow, I'm going to show this if I can bring it up here. It has basically the internal White House staff as the cast of Survivor, trying to figure out who is going to be remaining at the end of this. Kimberly, you had a unique advantage last night to actually hear a little bit maybe about this, and I'm not asking you to divulge anything, but you were at the White House last night. What's your take on all this?
Good night to get an invitation, right?
Yeah.
So it was very nice to be there, and wonderful to see the president and the first lady, who I'm very fond of and friends of. And so there was a dinner. I got to do a nice little tour and stuff of the White House, and was there with our colleague Sean Hannity. I won't say the other people who were there because they weren't outed as being present. But it was a very nice dinner, you know, wonderful time, great food, probably ate too much, you know me. But other than that, I mean, the president was in very, very good mood, very happy, really feels like things are in the right course, that his policies and agendas are going to be implemented. So he seemed really enthused, which was great. And I guess this all happened later on after the dinner.
And earlier today, Jesse, Sarah Sanders in her press briefing said that the president likes competition like this. I'm not sure if this is the exact thing that they're looking for, like competition in terms of like ideas and getting to the best policy, I could see, but internal squabbling, do you think he likes that?
I think he might be a little entertained by it. Maybe
As
there's
are
a
we all.
method to his madness. Sarah Huckabee Sanders also said another brilliant thing on the story tonight where she says, I don't think the American people care so much about who has a job inside the White House. They care about who has a job outside the White House in America. But there's a lot of locker room talk going on right now. The other day, Scaramucci said that he's not a backstabber, he's a front stabber. And I think Reince right now is pulling the knife out of his chest. I think here's what's going on. Trump is trying to purge weakness and disloyalty from his team. So he taps Mooch, who's got a great head of hair, a very sharp tongue, and he's coming in with a flamethrower and just kind of mowing down everybody that's weak. And he's firing disloyal people, he's manhandling people on television, and he's throwing some fastballs right at Reince's head. Now, how Reince reacts, I think, in the next couple weeks is going to determine whether or not Mooch is going to slide in and take that chief of staff job. I'm not really sure how it's going to play out. Is the language a little over the top? Yes. Do we all have virgin ears? No. I'm not that worried about it. But Trump doesn't hire yes men like Obama did. He's hiring people with sharp elbows, people with very sharp tongues who come in and compete and are very passionate. And they're all from different walks of life. So I think we have to get used to this. A little perspective here. Vets are not dying in secret wait lines. Ambassadors are not being left behind to die on the anniversary of 9/11. And Border Patrol agents aren't dying at the hands of Mexican drug cartels. So let's put that into perspective.
That's something that you brought up last night, which is that all the good stuff is on page 3.
Yeah.
That they're doing, and then you have things like this, because I said on the story that reporters will always eat dessert first if you give it to them. And if it's like a soap opera, then you're going to cover that first. And you're going to read it first, too.
Exactly. We should
Like you're standing in the grocery store line.
Yeah. You know, I think it is a little overstated, though. It's not as if he's the, I don't know, director of communications, something like that. Then it would be serious. No, the thing is...
Director of the OK Corral. That's what it is, right?
But I think I agree with Jesse. Listen, my Twitter feed every day is filled with profanity. When I'm watching the news, I switch over to an entertainment show. It's totally profane. There's practically pornography on the cable channels. It's ridiculous when we pretend that we've never heard this stuff before. And so, you know, he said it to another reporter.
I don't know if that's the thing, though, Juan. I think it's that the fact that they're saying it about each other.
Oh, my gosh.
At the White House.
I don't understand. This, you know, there was a headline the other day. It said, this is not normal. Well, to me, this is the presidency of the United States of America. And what we're seeing here is that the presidency is being degraded by this kind of hooligan behavior.
Are you talking about the Clinton White House, or are you talking about the Trump White House?
Jesse,
I just want to make sure.
I'll tell you, the White House are not talking about.
Jesse, there's no getting away from this. I mean, I don't understand why the president would invite this kind of acrimony, this kind.
I think the president is very frustrated.
In which he has gone after his own attorney general, and now we have Scaramucci going after the chief of staff, the chief political consultant, saying that you can't. I mean, I don't even know how to deal with it, but he's saying Bannon should perform physically impossible acts on himself, and he's blocking this and that. He's saying that Reince Priebus, and you know, I don't get it, saying Reince Priebus is psychotic, schizophrenic, and using profanity to describe him, says he's Cain and Abel, which, as we know, didn't end well. To me, what you're seeing here is...
From one of them.
Yeah. But what you're seeing here is disheartening. And I don't understand.
The Democrats have been saying the exact same thing about Bannon for the last year. And then all of a sudden Mooch says it, and then it's a big deal, and they're sympathetic.
Oh, yeah. Let me just say, you can try to, you know, pass this off. No big deal. Nothing happened. You know, everybody move along. Something big is happening here. And it's hurting the president, it's hurting the presidency, it's hurting our country. And you can see the divisions, by the way, not only in the Congress among Republicans, but even among Republican commentators. When you get Laura Ingraham, Charles Krauthammer, even Newt Gingrich, who is close to the president, saying that Scaramucci's full of himself, maybe you should stop, Jesse, and just say, you know, this is serious. This is not, oh, let's just bring up Obama again.
Well, when people are calling for the president's assassination and everybody sweeps it under the table, then someone calls someone a schizo and it's like all hell's breaking loose.
You can never stick to this
But you know what? I think we should wait and see what's going to happen and what the president's going to decide. He is the American president. People serve at the pleasure of the president, and he's the one that gives direction. He's the one that makes the choices and the personnel decisions, and they're going to be his to make. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. We're going to see what's going to happen. But I'm sure if anybody was in a situation like this, you would feel regret. Obviously, you want to do things differently. You want to do a good job and be passionate about the president. You know,
one thing that's strange is that when the announcement was made that Anthony Scaramucci would become the director of communications at the White House, there must have been direction from the president to go out and make it look nice. Okay, so play nice. And so both Reince and Scaramucci came out and were like, oh, yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah.
We're brothers. But maybe that wasn't actually being truthful.
Yeah, and I think Scaramucci knows that, you know, he's trying to impress his boss now. He's also trying to impress us. You know,
reporters love it.
Yes, they love it. He knew he went over well when he gave the first press conference.
Yep.
Spicer went out and everyone said, oh, who's this new guy? And he was kind of impressive and he's got the arms and he's kind of like Trump. So he's a little full of himself. I think he's got it wrong with Bannon. I think, obviously, you know, Bannon has his head down. He's not like working on the Bannon brand. I think Scaramucci's working on the Scaramucci brand. So I think he's like projecting a little bit there.
I don't know. Yeah, I just read an article on Breitbart about how, I don't know, this is all very interesting.
Well, you know
I never had to deal with
that
this.
kind of talk's not going to bother somebody. Steve Bannon, who's like Goldman, you know, secretary. I hate to tell you, you should hear everything I heard as a prosecutor, working with like cops and detectives and other prosecutors.
It's just tough talk. I don't know where
Tom Perez says
I'm going to say,
F-word all the time.
When you see this, when you see him talking about his fellow Trump aides in the White House in this way, that's why I say it's disheartening. I'm not
We've
a
been
big
reading
Trump
about
supporter,
White House shakeups for quite some time. Something needs to be done. That's my point, right?
So
What's happening here?
last night you're with the president.
Yeah.
Did you get any indication as to who's coming, who's going?
She can't say anything like that, even if
I
she
don't
did
know.
know.
I'm asking her. She can speak for herself.
All right. And
okay, I'm sorry. I won't try to be her press secretary.
I would love you as my press secretary. You're very qualified.
I would love her actually more.
Wait and see what the president does. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I saw in Drudge this evening, it says, you know, death match. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about.
That's again my point. The reporters are loving this. The public likes it. It's like, honestly, we are all addicted to the sugar. We are treated to it every day. That there is always something that has nothing to do with policy that we can talk about that is frustrating to the White House. But a lot of this is self-inflicted.
I think too what we saw today is you didn't hear any statements coming out from the White when they said, does he have the confidence of the president? There was one thing, and there was a second thing, which was it was confidence of the president and one other thing, and they asked about Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Right, and she did not give Reince a very good indication that everything's fine. It seems like he's on borrowed time right now. I think Reince has been a loyal guy to the extent that once Trump won the nomination, he soldiered up and he got in line and he was very good to him. Now, at 6 months in, has it worked out very smoothly under Reince's leadership as chief of staff? You can say the travel ban rollout wasn't that smooth. The Obamacare deal has not gone smoothly at all. The messaging has sometimes been off. There hasn't been great execution. And Scaramucci comes in, and this guy might knock some heads together and make some changes, and this is maybe something the president's trying to encourage.
Well, I just think that if you're a Republican on Capitol Hill right now, you're thinking this is out of control. This is the seventh.
Well, actually, you're thinking right now about what we're going to talk about in a little bit, which is the health care bill.
Yes.
But first, a Fox News exclusive ahead. Attorney General Jeff Sessions with some very candid things to say about the president's public criticism of him. Up next.
You told
that what Hillary says about Russian interference and about Comey's behavior definitely contributed to her defeat.
I think it's the first time I've ever agreed with Crying Chuck. She really shouldn't blame anybody else but herself. Why write the book? I mean, she doesn't need the money, Kimberly. Is it therapeutic? Is it legacy repair? What do you think it is?
You know, is it? Maybe I think it's more for them. Everything's got to have sort of an end game. So I don't even think they're interested in any kind of therapy, and they don't have enough, like, lifetime left to work it out, I don't think. So I think for this, maybe she's actually thinking about, can she do another run again?
Ooh.
And this is like reputational repair, revisionist history, and trying to connect again with her base and her voters. But I have really bad news for her. There's other people that are like, move out of the way, you and Scooby-Doo van, because it's over, right?
Kimberly makes a good point that Democrats are sitting around and it's going to be September and she's just going to come running back, sucking up all the oxygen, and it's all just going to rewind back to her losing and Trump just gets another shot at the punching bag.
So it's interesting that her book title is the same as Scott McClellan's. He was the press secretary for a couple years in the Bush administration. It was what happened, and people had at the time were like, you mean with a question mark? And this day and age, given our first block that we talked about, it should be what the you-know-what happened. Because
Dana
there you go. They said that there's going to be a bombshell in this book.
Ooh.
Okay, I look at the cover, and I know a little bit about book publication. That cover does not grab me.
No,
I don't.
What
I thought that was like a dummy copy. You know, like sometimes you get the galley
Like a
and it doesn't
prototype.
have the actual thing on it.
You know what it needs? It needs
what?
that Hillary arrow going the other way.
But I think she
Down?
wants to write I think she wants to write it for her legacy's sake, so she could have her side of the story in her words in one place to get it out there.
What should she have titled the book, Tom?
Well, I do. Yeah, it's the way you say it.
Sorry.
It's the way you say it. It's not what happened. It's what happened. What happened? Yes.
As she's stumbling out of
That's
the
what
woods.
she said after she fainted. What happened?
Yeah. But I think this is the most appropriately titled book since If I Did It.
Oh, the OJ book.
Yeah.
My God.
It's just something about it. Something about that title rings true.
Okay.
I think conservatives are going to read this book.
You do.
Well, I'm going to read it.
They love reliving 2016.
Trump's going to be up at the White House every night. All right, high drama once again as several prominent Republicans threaten to block a stripped-down Obamacare repeal bill. The showdown is up next.
Another push tonight in the Senate to unravel Obamacare. There's a planned vote on a stripped-down health care bill after broader legislation failed. 4 Republican senators say they will not vote for it unless they get a guarantee that the House will not pass it as is.
The skinny bill as policy is a disaster. The skinny bill as a replacement for Obamacare is a fraud. The skinny bill is a vehicle to get in conference to find a replacement. It is not a replacement in of itself.
Speaker Paul Ryan says the House is willing to negotiate a final bill with the Senate, but Senator John McCain, for one, says that reassurance just isn't enough. Kimberly, is this thing dead?
I don't think so. The sense that I was getting yesterday was that they are very optimistic about this, that they're not going to give up and, you know, they're going to try and get it done. But at the same time, I will say they're very focused on tax reform as well. So I think that's something that they really want to get done, are very adamant about it, and feel that, you know, Secretary Mnuchin is going to get it done. So, you know, let's see. I mean, I would like to see something very good here for health care to improve upon, you know, Obamacare and do something great for the American people. I mean, who doesn't want excellent health care for everyone?
So, Jesse, it looks like they voted to go ahead earlier this week, but didn't know what they were voting on. Then they've gone through now several bills and said no to them, and they've come down to this skinny bill, which would do away with the individual mandate, do away with the mandate for corporations with more than 50 employees, and do away with the tax on medical devices. Yet, they really don't feel that that is sufficient. They want something more. Do you have any idea, any sense of what it is they're looking for?
No, it's a clown show, straight up. I've never seen anything like that, and that's really tough to say when you're talking about the United States Senate and Congress. It's been a catastrophe from the get-go. It was forever to get it through the House. It was like what they failed twice. Then they can't get it through the Senate. That was supposed to be the easier, and the Republicans were sent to have full control, the White House, the Senate, and the Congress, to deliver, and they're not delivering. And if they can't deliver on something that they've promised to deliver for how many years has this been?
Yeah,
they don't really deserve the majority. So get your act together or move on to tax cuts, because I'm sick of it, and I think the American people are sick of it. The American people need help from Obamacare. It's failing, and it hurts people. If you can't help the American people, then, you know, do your job or go home.
All right, so Dana, here's the Democratic argument, and I'm responding to Jesse, but I'm putting the question to you, which is to say, if you have something better after 7 years, if you had a better bill, covered more people, drove down premiums, put it on the table. But they don't seem to have that. At the moment, it just seems like there's a partisan effort to say, oh, yeah, we did it because we're keeping our pledge.
Well, I agree that this process has not looked good,
Right.
but when the history books are written, it will be like a comma, because if they actually get it done, that's what will matter.
100%.
And what I heard from the Senate today is that the president and the vice president have been willing to make any calls that they ask them to make. I don't understand why McCain thinks that when Paul Ryan says we're willing to go to conference to negotiate, that he says that's not good enough. He needs more reassurance. Like, I don't understand what more they would need. Obviously, they're going to have to go to conference. The other thing is, I think there is a little bit of a problem on the CBO score. For example, for the skinny repeal, the CBO said that 4 million people would leave Medicaid. But Medicaid is basically free. So why do they think 4 million people are going to walk away if they're not touching the Medicaid money?
I don't think it's that they would leave. I think that they would be pushed off.
But they're not taking away in skinny repeal. All the Medicaid money stays. So that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think that what you see is that it's not available.
So skinny.
Yeah, it's not available.
That's what Steyerwalt says. Skinny is actually fat.
See, it's just all
But
code
you know
words.
what? You know what just bothers me, Tom, is that Republicans really don't know where they're going. And so we've been through this. I mean, you guys, you're looking at me suspiciously, Jesse.
That's how I always look at you, Ron.
That's his resting face.
Oh, it's his resting face? All right. I'll shoot back some love. But I genuinely, sincerely wonder how, after all these years, they don't have an idea of what's better than something they've condemned so aggressively.
They do, and the skinny bill, everybody agrees on the three things in the skinny bill. Every Republican agrees on. They should just do an ultralight bill with just the individual mandate. Just take that off. Do you remember when the individual mandate was up in front of the Supreme Court? Every Republican wanted that thing knocked down. So knock it down. There's an agreement on that. There's no excuse to not vote to knock down that individual mandate. There's no excuse for the other two things.
But then the whole thing collapses without it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but then,
so
then the argument really isn't they don't know what they want. The argument is whether we want to do things all at once or we want to craft this whole thing. McCain thinks you have to do it all together. Other people think you don't. I don't think you do.
You mean you would go for 2 years and allow all the insurance companies to become anxious and uncertain of what
I don't care about those insurance.
They're
Be
like
anxious,
that now.
company. I don't care about you.
I see. Well, I mean, it's a difficult situation. And Kimberly, I just come back to you because you were at the heart of the matter last night. Do you sense that the president has any plan in mind?
Any plan in mind specifically for health care? Yeah, look, he's doing anything he can. And Vice President Pence left to go and work on it last night as well. So poor thing, he didn't even get any dinner. But, poor thing. But,
he needs some health care.
The president's like, listen, put me in, whatever you need to do. And actually, he was just very enthusiastic and excited about the rally that he had just had. So, he felt good about getting out there and with the base and sort of just that renewed sense of spirit of, okay, I made these promises. We got to get this done.
That's what the Republicans say, though. They wish he had been out on the campaign trail the way Obama had been when Obama was pushing it.
I said, I think you should do more of that. It's, you're at your best, and it really connects the message, and it's not even having to rely then
If it goes to conference, I think he should give one Oval Office address about what he thinks the principles are that he's trying to achieve in this bill so that he can give them the enthusiasm that they need to pass the final.
If Scaramucci is out, Dana Perino's available. Ahead, a prominent Democratic congressman compares President Trump to a ruthless monarch. You hear it for yourself. Up next.
Democrats love to compare President Trump to all kinds of former tyrants and dictators. Here's the latest parallel from the deputy chairman of the DNC.
What he's doing through his Twitter account and in other ways is circumventing the whole system to intimidate people, to pack courts, to intimidate the press, all so that he can just sort of run everything himself. And we fought a war of independence against somebody, King George, who was trying to do that.
Dana?
Well, I think that's obviously way over the top. And let's just look at some of the facts. The checks and balances that we have in our system are actually working very well. The courts pushed back against the travel ban. The president said, okay, let me fix it. He did. And now it's going through the Supreme Court, and it looks like they're going to be able to say, okay, it's fine on the merits. The Congress has said, oh, no, you don't. We're not going to do it that way. And the president's like, okay, well, I'm going to try a different way. The way that our founding fathers set up our system is actually working. So we should just trust the Constitution. It works.
Who says we don't teach civics in this country anymore?
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of people wish President Trump was a dictator. Maybe we could repeal Obamacare. It'd be a lot easier that way. I think he's channeling his inner Johnny Depp. I think it's another dangerous comment. He doesn't realize what he's saying, but he needs a history lesson. How's Trump trying to pack the courts anyway?
Right.
Because he nominated Neil Gorsuch to an empty seat? I think Ellison's looking for attention.
Yeah, maybe. But Kimberly, this is the least offensive dictator he's been compared to in a while.
It's actually almost sort of charming, right? It's like not that it's not as bad as normal. Yeah, but you know what? I think they're doing this. They're trying to like get some game going for their team, you know, and they think that this works. That this is like exciting their base. It's enthusiastic. It's like, okay, we're going to call them out. This is what we stand for, and they're trying to get some mojo back. But I don't think it's going so well. More like Hojo.
Well, in this NPR interview, Ellison said that they were talking about Twitter. And Juan, he said that he uses Twitter he's circumventing the whole system to intimidate people, to pack courts, to intimidate the press, and so that he can just run everything himself. That's how he uses Twitter? Pack the courts? I don't understand what he's talking about.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense to me is this is a guy who's fired the acting attorney general, fired the FBI director, gone off on the intelligence community, fractured, I mean, what's going on in the Congress right now, so that his supporters are blaming the Congress, not him, and he's not taking responsibility. It sounds like he just wants to be the king. He just wants to say, here's what I want, let's do it right now, and if you don't do it, we got to get you out of here, and I'm going to bring in Scaramouche, and he's my guy, he's my executioner, and we're going to cut heads.
Yeah, but whoa. Like, Dana made a perfect point. You don't get it done. Like, everything he tries to do, he's got the court striking this down. You know, it shows you that, you know, whatever system, you know, the system works.
The system works only to a point where people resist. And I know that there are a lot of Republicans who hear the word resist, and they think, oh, it's terrible. You're trying to obstruct President Trump. That's not what this should be. It should be that he is president. We respect the president. People cooperate. Yeah. I think that's just not what's going on because of the way that he is behaving. And part of that is viewed by so many Americans as acting like an autocrat.
Not that many Americans, because he sure beat Hillary.
And not in the popular vote. Let's not forget that.
Okay, is that what we count, Juan?
All
Sounds
right.
like Hillary. What happened?
What happened?
No, do it like
What
Tom.
happened? He won the Electoral College.
A very special One More Thing is up next.
Welcome back to the 5 in lieu of One More Thing tonight. New Yorker reporter Ryan Lizza has just responded to a tweet from Anthony Scaramucci about his interview with him. The White House communications director said in a post tonight that he made a mistake in trusting a reporter. It won't happen again, blaming Lizza for publishing his quotes. Here's the reporter's reaction.
And, you know, it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of we as reporters and journalists trying to explain who these people are to the American people. And when you do an on-the-record interview with someone, it's standard operating procedure that that interview then gets reported.
I think this is just one of those things where you get on the phone with somebody and you just either forget to say this is off the record or something, or maybe you didn't think you had to, Kimberly. But right. I don't think it'll happen again.
I think, yeah, when you're director of communications, assume that everything is going to be recorded or stated, et cetera, even if you say off the record. I mean, when I used to be First Lady and deal with stuff and at the DA's office, I would say 10 times, off the record, off the record,
over and over again.
And just keep saying it because I didn't have any trust because I had been burned by reporters that, you know, they want to get the story, they want to get their name out there. So you've got to be extra, you know, careful. But if you think that you're dealing with someone you've dealt with before and they're asking these questions and you're venting, well, you know, this day and age now, and in the age of Trump,
juicy,
they're going to put it all up there.
I used to tell junior staff, Jesse, that reporters are not your friends. You can be friendly with them, right? But they have a job to do. So if you give them something, they are going to run with it.
I'm your friend. You can talk to me. I'm not going to burn you. I don't know who to trust here. I kind of would like to trust Scaramucci because I don't trust the New Yorker magazine. They've done some vicious things against this channel specifically for decades. So I'm going to side with the Mooch on this one. He probably did get burned. So I don't know what happened, so I don't want to speculate. Who knows really what went down.
Jesse doesn't trust reporters, huh? The guy who puts his feet in people's garage doors to get the interview?
Me?
What about the, Juan, so the media has a low approval rating, okay? And so their popularity is way down. At this point, I don't know if they can afford to make any mistakes. I actually think that the reporter's telling the truth, but what do you think as a reporter?
Well, I mean, my impression is that Scaramucci did not say, I didn't say this. I didn't insult Steve Bannon in that profane way. I did not offer my psychiatric diagnosis of Reince Priebus and say he's out. He basically said, oh, well, maybe he shouldn't have said it. But he never said that he did this off the record. He says that he trusted the reporter. I don't know if he thought the guy
trusted that it was off the record.
No,
I don't think you should make
that.
a good impression by using those words for a quoted interview.
Right. No, but he said he trusted the guy. He didn't say it was off the record. He just said, I trusted the guy, Kimberly.
Right.
So I think that's why I don't think he has a leg to stand on. He's not standing. He's just creating an image. But the substance of what he said stands, and it's quite disturbing that this is going on in the White House, and this is the kind of relationships that are being bent and broken under President Trump.
Kimberly, there's resentment amongst the senior staffers, and somebody's going to have to fix it. And I think, as the president said in the campaign, I alone can fix it. And really, he is actually, as the commander-in-chief and the head of the White House and of the country, that he's the one that can do it.
That was a CNN interview earlier. I think we played a clip of it where Scaramucci said, I don't know if this is repairable or not. It's going to be up to the president's side. He's the shot caller. They serve at his pleasure, and let's see what happens. And we've been hearing stories for a long time now about White House shakeups and the president not happy. So let's see. I mean, he's got to get people around him that he trusts and that he feels understands and represents him well.
Spicer and Reince might be doing Dancing with the Stars together.
Wow.
I think they really want Spicer.
Who leads, Jesse? Who leads?
I don't know.
Since we have just a few seconds, do you think Spicer should do Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah, I think he should. It's great. Oh,
would you
come
do
on.
it?
Oh, you kidding me? I'd win.
Kimberly, would you do it? Kimberly would win it if she did.
Winning.
All right, check your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. You know what? Hannity's up next.